Hello, it's Kimberly Hunt from Revision Division, and we'll get started in a few minutes. We have a great author interview scheduled for you today, and you'll hear from D W Plato, who's joining us now. So we'll just give her a minute to join, as well as our viewers who would like to hear more. So just give us a second here to get set up. All right. Hey, can you hear me okay?
Hi, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yay!
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great, thank you. I apologize in advance if we have any children interrupting tonight. I am solo parenting and they do not obey the I am busy.
Yeah, puppies
So
too. I'm
how
like, I've got my puppies locked up for the same reason.
how many do you have?
I have two little puppies and a great big old lady dog.
Oh, does she tolerate them well?
No,
No.
no, my daughter. There are empty nest emotional support pets because our daughter's in Germany.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah.
So when was the last time you were able to visit her?
Uh, September of 19.
Yeah.
It's been a minute.
Oh, yeah.
She got married in July last year, so she could stay. But
Mhm.
I feel like I'm closer to her. Like we talk every day. Like I don't know if I
That's
would talk to her
awesome.
every day if she were here.
Yeah. Yeah. I
How old are you?
actually
How old are
texted
your
my
kids?
own mother and said, "Hey, I'm sorry I haven't caught up with you. I'll call you tomorrow."
Yeah, exactly. It's so true. How your kids are little still, huh?
They are. They're elementary school age, so we're day by day doing the virtual learning and getting through.
That's got to be a challenge.
It is, and I'm not the most patient. I will I will admit it.
That's I. Yeah. Not everyone is born to be a teacher, and that's I
That's
feel like
true.
everyone is being thrown into this teaching, and
Mhm.
not everyone was born to be a teacher.
Yes, it takes a special sort. I
Yeah.
totally, from volunteering in their classrooms and then seeing this virtual business, gives me a true appreciation for the work that they do. And I mean, I'll hear my own kids be disruptive and ask silly questions, and I don't know how they do it.
I agree. I totally agree. And my hats off to anyone that's doing it, especially multi children.
Yeah, yeah. It's a challenge, but we're all doing the best that we can.
It's true. It's day by day at this point.
Yeah. So I just wanted to circle back for those that are just joining us and just say a quick hello that I am Kimberly Hunt with Revision Division, and I'm here today with D.W. Plato, who is our special author interview guest for the day, and we're going to talk about DW's latest release, The Dragon from Guangzhou. And so I have some questions prepared, and then I'm hoping that we'll have some viewers ask some questions. I thought it would be a mix of what your readers want to know, what other writers would want to know, and then we'll just see where it takes us. Just super casual. Forgive us for whatever flaws and technical difficulties we may have.
Yeah, this is my first doing this, so I'm excited. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. So, what I want to first point out for people is that I released today on the Revision Division blog. If you go under tips, you'll see a book review. So that's a full write up of your book. I don't even know if did I send you a link?
Maybe.
I'll have to after this if I didn't. But I did put a nice review out there, giving some details. So people should definitely check that out. And then there's more to come because we'll have a follow up, possibly what you sent me also, where you were giving some of the background of how you came up with the story, and we could speak to that tonight. I'm sure people want to hear. So maybe we'll start with that. Is just the interesting journey that brought you to this, how you discovered the story, and I know everybody always asks like, how are you and how did you get inspired, and you have a really great origin story to share.
Yeah. I did find out too. I've been saying the name of the city wrong. It's Guangzhou.
Okay.
I've learned that from the audiobook. I've learned so much Mandarin in the last couple of weeks that I had no idea that I was saying it wrong. But it is the Dragon from Guangzhou.
Okay.
And my husband and I were in Hong Kong
Hmm.
when I met a pilot who also wrote books, and he wrote like manuals. He said he only did nonfiction, And he said, man, if I could write fiction, I'd write a book about Qin Shi. And I had never at that point even heard of Qin Shi. Most everyone has nowadays heard of her.
Okay.
And I started doing some research and realized, like, how has no one written a book about her already? Because
Yeah.
her story is not something I could even make up. It's crazy. But it's an amazing story of an amazing woman, and that's how it got inspired. That's for sure.
Yeah, so then you chased down to learn more about it and found that there was very little, right, to go on.
Very
So you had
little.
to kind of fill in the blanks.
Yeah, it's almost like she was like scrubbed from history.
Mm,
I feel like, and maybe in that area they don't want to acknowledge strong, powerful women, especially from
mm,
the 1800s. And so I feel like there's very, very little known about her. But yeah, we went to a maritime museum that had featured her, and saw some of the what was really interesting was the different junk ships in that
oh
museum,
yeah.
because some of the ships were very small and
Mhm.
maybe only a couple hundred people, but some of the ships were huge, like thousands of people that could sail around the world on them. So
Wow.
that was something that was really super interesting, was the ships themselves.
Mhm.
Apparently the junks were the first that were used the rudders to steer with, and not just the sails. And so
Mhm.
that was the really interesting stuff to find out. And so then we also went to Macau. We went to the old town, walked the streets where her brothel was when she was
Mhm.
older. The following year, we went to Vietnam. I started very North Vietnam and we traveled all the way down to Ho Chi Minh City to see where her protection tax was levied. And a
Mhm.
lot of the Vietnamese people don't like her because it wasn't all about protection. It really was about fleecing and making money.
She
But
was a
yeah, I did a
businesswoman.
lot of research about what she was actually all about.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't know how true it was, but I was telling my children at dinner the other night, I was like, "She may have invented cleats." She struggled to stay in position on the boat and on the ship.
That was all me actually. That was all my imagination, because I was thinking about how you would do it. Like I was like trying to picture myself on those boats.
Mhm.
And if you're at all familiar with being out at sea,
Mhm.
it can be very dangerous
Yeah.
just to be standing on deck.
Mhm.
And so those were some of the things. But yeah, she did actually make the first mail system. The Pony Express rivaled it, so they were right around the same period of time. So I don't know
Mhm.
which really came first, but she's been credited as doing one of the very first mail systems. So
Yeah.
that's also pretty cool. She's amazing.
Yeah. And I loved how in the blurb that you were writing about how she negotiated the first prenuptial agreement.
That's the first on history. There's no other record of the prenuptial agreement. That she definitely um, was a business savvy woman from the very beginning.
Yeah. So it's clearly a badass heroine. I just enjoyed it so
Absolutely.
much.
Absolutely.
And I didn't know what to think. I think when you first described it, I was like, I don't know anything about this this area of the world. I don't know anything about pirates or
Yeah.
and so just I've enjoyed it so much. The story, the challenge, what I've learned, and of course it's a joy working with you. So thank
Oh,
you.
it's been a blast. You've been great. You've been
Oh,
fantastic.
thank you.
I didn't know much about pirates at the beginning.
Well, it is an amazing story. And so, can you tell us, for your readers, how you decide what genre you're going to write in? Like, what do you like to read the most, and how do you choose what to write?
So I never really wanted to be a genre writer, especially
Mhm.
after reading Stephen King's biography. Like he was
Mhm.
kind of pushed into becoming a genre writer because that's what his fans demanded.
Mhm.
And so I was like, oh, I'm going to write this and I'm going to write this and but I can feel myself slipping into being a genre writer because I really love historical fiction. I love
Mhm.
to read it. I love to study it.
Yeah.
I love it. And I can feel myself kind of slipping into that mode. But I love all books. I go through 2 to 3 audiobooks a week.
Wow.
I'm not an old fashioned person that loves the actual book because I'm in traffic and I'm busy and it's 2021 and we all run, 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 run.
Right.
And so if you see me with headphones in, I've got a book on. I don't have music. I've had people come in here and be like, "It's so quiet in here," and I'm like, "What? I'm listening to my book."
It was.
But yeah, I love books and I love historical fiction. I'm not super into the romance, but I feel like there needs to be a little romance in every book. Like
It
really,
doesn't
so
hurt.
it doesn't hurt. So I kind of like try and pepper all my books with a little bit of romance, and I really do dig the historical fiction genre. Um, Now it's getting so late in 2020, like you can do historical fiction now. In the 90s is considered historical fiction because it's over 20 years, and so
Yeah.
that's another thing that it's like, well, it kind of opens up everything, you know.
Mhm. Yeah, true.
So I would
So
love, go ahead.
what inspired your goal of, is it a book a year?
Yes, I do want to write a book a year. I've always wanted to write books for all my life. And every year as an adult, I'm like, oh, this is the year. This is the year. This is the year.
Yeah.
And then in 2015, we had a little tragedy happen in our family. And I'm like, life is short. I could die today. And
Yeah.
so I started writing. I'm like, this is going to be the year. And it was
Mhm.
like someone turned a tap on and I couldn't stop. I
Yeah.
overwrote the book. The book was 600 pages long. The first
Wow.
editor I ever had was like, dude, you've never done this before, right? And I'm like, clearly not. Um, we chunked it down. We made it. It ended up being a really good book. But then I'm like, it took less than a year. And
Yeah.
I had this book and I'm like, well, I'm going to do one next year. And I did another
Mhm.
one. And I'm like, I'm going to do one every year.
Yeah.
And it's just something I love to do. And I'm so passionate about that. It just makes me so happy to create a book. And so, yeah, I would definitely like to do one a year. In fact, I can't wait to tell you about my next idea.
Yay. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, your passion shows. You're meticulous with your research and getting it right, and just crafting a wonderful story. And I think that's a couple of things I wanted to ask you about, because yeah, we've commiserated on comma usage and the technical aspects of writing, but I think from a writing craft, the elements like the developmental editing piece of it, like is there like a piece that you feel, an element that your strength? Like some people write like lovable characters or the thrilling plot twists or the addicting pace. Like what do
I
you feel
like
is
to
your
think
strength?
I like to think I do good dialogue because I like
Mhm.
to talk. And
For
so
sure.
I do find I have a lot of dialogue, sometimes too much. But I also I think the characters, like you're saying, I feel like the women that I pick so far have been strong women, and I know that that's a,
Yeah.
kind of trending right now. Like we need to recognize a lot of these women that are in history that never got recognized before, that have just been
Mhm.
either erased from history or whitewashed from history or however it's done. But a lot of women just didn't get the credit that they deserved, and I
Mhm.
feel like it's time. I feel
Yeah.
like it's time for us to look and recognize that the other sex that was out there creating the world that we know today.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you had talked, and that's what I was saying in a future blog post. You had talked about your experience with other editors, and I was hoping maybe you wouldn't mind sharing with the other writers that may be watching tonight, what your experience was like with. It can be before, but also with revision division, because you've tried a few. I mentioned a
I have a
few
lot
of
of
the.
editors.
Yeah.
And like I wrote you this morning, it could be me. um, I uh, I think that really truly a good editor is what sets, especially in the indie world. And I
Mhm.
want to acknowledge that. I know on Twitter right now, there's this big battle going on about self-published books not being as good or not being as entertaining as a
Mhm.
traditional published book. And I have reached out to different agents, but honestly and truly, I feel like if you're gonna play in that field, you need to play with all the pieces, and an editor is the biggest piece.
Yeah.
Really, truly, anyone can write a book, but they're not all going to be good. And
Mhm.
it's because they don't use the editors. I've read a lot of indie books out there that my very first knee jerk reaction is you need an editor. I
Yeah.
recently read a book the other day and they said there was 24 ounces in a pound. And I had to stop for a second and go, is there? I thought there was 16. And immediately I'm like, an editor would have caught that mistake. Like, this might
Sure.
have been a typo. This might have been the author just not knowing how many ounces are really in a pound.
Yeah.
But that to me immediately told me this person did not use an editor.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's in all of my books,
Yeah.
they're so raw that I need that editor. I feel like sometimes I hand an editor this chunk of clay and say, "Oh, I have this vision," and it's the editor really that creates it to be so beautiful. Because I think the authors are just like shoveling words, you know what I mean? And then you've got to take all these words and make this gorgeous thing. With my book Glue, I had
Mhm.
five editors, and
Wow.
I got I got a 5-star rating today. But in the 5-star rating, it says few grammatical errors didn't take
Mhm.
away from the story. This is after 5 editors
Wow.
gone through it, and there's still okay. Again, that tells you how bad I am at English, but it also tells you that even with 5 sets of eyes on
Yeah.
this book, there's still some problems.
Yeah.
And so I really feel like that is the best thing that you can do as an indie author, as even a traditional published author. If
Mhm.
you even think you're going to get breaking into a traditional publishing house, you better have an editor in your back pocket, because they're going to just toss it out if it's not totally, and I'm not saying perfect, but
No.
it's got to be to a certain level of expectation
Mhm.
before it's good. And
Yeah.
like I said, anyone can tell a story, anyone can write a story, but to have it be a really good, entertaining book that people want to read or people want to share,
Right.
you've got to have a good editor. You absolutely have to have a good editor.
Yeah. For the polish and the quality product that you're trying to produce in the end,
That's
it's
the word,
essential. It's
quality.
an editor, it's a professional cover,
Hmm. Hmm.
it's the complete package. And I
Perfect.
loved how you said that you felt like you had a team, because that is how I feel as well. So, when we're talking after edits, when we're talking blurbs, like all of that to me is part of this is our working relationship, and it's awesome.
Well, and that is how it felt. Like, it felt like I had a team. Like, I feel like I probably took advantage of you a little bit, because I kept turning to you and like, oh, what about this? And what about this? And what about this? And what about this? And you were so nice to say, yeah, I'm not, not with my kids and eating dinner right now. But you
They're
were
so
always so
needy.
helpful. Like, and I appreciate that, because I know sometimes with the time difference you and I have, it can
Mhm.
be a little challenging. But yeah, that is truly it's a bigger process than just typing up a story.
Sure.
And that's especially where I think indie authors specifically need to look at, like, this is just not about you saying, oh, hey, look, I wrote a book.
Mhm.
If you want to play in the big leagues, which is obviously where I want to be playing,
Mhm.
you've got to have that polished quality product, and you're not going to get it just with one person. You're just not.
No. And you're right, it is, no matter how many sets of eyes and how much software you use, there will still be a mistake, here or there. Like, we're all human and it happens. But most of those, like the 24-ounce thing, might be, slightly innocuous, and some might not even catch it. But for a book to have so many glaring errors or typos that it's distracting, I mean, I rarely do not finish. Like, I can usually power through.
Me too.
Um,
The worst. I can power through the worst books out there.
yeah, but there have been a few with that I just like I'm not, I just can't. And so for those, then I don't leave a review. Like, that's not necessary. Like, I try to be constructive and supportive and review everything I read and find something that was likable, because a lot of times I'll see reviews out there where they say, oh, this is too steamy. I'm like, that's my book.
Right. Right. And
So
yeah, I
it's
agree.
helpful. Every
And
review is helpful.
I've done that, like, privately. Like, I have emailed somebody privately and said, hey, look, I did power through your book. It was tough for me. These are the
Mhm.
reasons why. And those are the types of reviews I want. I would
Mhm.
rather have someone come to me and be honest and say,
Yeah.
hey, look, all of these comments are driving me crazy, than to just leave some terrible review or not say anything.
Yeah.
I want honest feedback. I
Mhm.
want to be better. I want to be better at my craft. And the only way I'm going to is to get honest feedback from the readers, period.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. And it's awesome that you turn that in, that constructive feedback and improve from it. That's what I love. The fact that I have relationships with authors like you, that I get to see book after book and see the improvement along the way. It's just thrilling. It's just so exciting.
No, I appreciate that, because like you have seen the other book that's not published yet, so I appreciate you willing to work with me again.
You bet. So let me ask a few more questions here. And then, of course, I can return the favor. You're welcome to ask questions or volunteer whatever information you want to share with viewers. But I wanted to know, sorry, I skipped around in my notes here. Oh, so when you're not when you're not writing, how are you spending your time? Can you share with your fans a little bit more of the personal side of you?
Yes, I tell people all the time, I'm a full-time landlord and a part-time author, but one
Yeah.
day I will reverse that. But
I
yes, we
love your
have.
hashtag buy my book so I can quit my day job.
I always tell people that, please buy my book so I can quit my day job, or I can afford a property manager. That's my next goal, is if I could just afford a property manager and not be down there so much. But we have 33 tenants and 24 doors,
Mhm.
and so it's a lot of work. And I kind of vision my tenants like, I only bother my landlord once a month, but there's 30 of them, so I'm hearing from somebody every day. Something's broken.
And
Something
it's always
usually happens
problems.
around 5 o'clock on Friday. Oh, my power's out. Oh, my fridge isn't working. Oh, whatever. So I'm a manager. I own property. But eventually, I'm going to go have a property manager, and I'm going to just sit in my mountain resort and just sit and type write books. And that's truly
Nice.
my goal, is to just kind of switch the roles and write more and manage properties less.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, but I do like what I do. I worked for Southwest Airlines for almost 20 years. And my husband was a union iron worker. And so we retired between 8 and 10 and just took a total leave. We cashed out our 401ks and bought our first rental properties,
Nice.
which the IRS frowns upon. Just a
Mhm.
heads up. Uh, but it did work out for us. Like, that was, it's been over 10 years, and we finally are feeling like, yes, we're going to be able to see the light of day one day and not have to be down there every single day babysitting and fixing, unclogging toilets and fixing
Yeah.
computers and all. I know it's terrible, but I do love my people. That's the other thing. I get
Yeah.
really emotionally involved, especially last year with the COVID.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own COVID stories, and everybody has the way it affected them. We had two sets of clients, two sets of tenants. Either they're working around the clock and don't have a day off,
Yeah.
or they are not working at all and they're sitting at home twiddling their thumbs. And there's really, last year wasn't a lot in between.
Yeah.
Things are starting in New Mexico to go back to normal. I don't know where, how Maryland is, but New Mexico, we're starting to feel, we went out to eat the other day in a restaurant and actually ate inside. It was amazing.
Wow. I
So
miss those days.
things are going back to whatever normal is. We're not standing outside grocery stores anymore waiting to get in.
Mhm.
We laughed at Trader Joe's, felt like an exclusive club. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I do. I adult babysit.
I will I will say, as a positive of COVID, I when it first hit our area, and people went nuts with the like hoarding toilet paper and clearing out the grocery store,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of like startled me. Like going and seeing the stores with empty shelves kind of made me feel a little panicky. And so I
Right.
came home and I was like, I don't think I'm going back out. And so my husband graciously took over the food shopping. And so now I'm like, I don't want it back. you,
Right.
you're
We
doing that.
started getting our groceries delivered, and I feel the same way. Like, I'm like, I
Yeah.
just push the button and the delivery shows up.
It's so nice.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are things I don't feel like we should be going back. I feel like a lot of people that are working from home from now need to
And
continue to
still,
work from home.
yeah.
I think that there's a lot of positives that we can really look at. I am that kind of optimist, though, and I am always trying to look at the positive. And I think there's lessons to be learned
Mhm.
from 2020,
Yeah.
and that's definitely one of them for sure.
Yeah, I
We
agree.
We speaking of hoarding, so we bought toothpaste and garbage bags for the two things that we like completely loaded up on, and I'm still using the garbage bags. I'm like, oh my god, I bought a year's worth of garbage. That's
Guess you didn't want to be out. Yeah.
no, those were the things. Especially we live kind of out in the sticks, and so the last thing I wanted to do was start to get trash piled up. And then the toothpaste, I'm like, it's so funny. We bought a case of toothpaste. Like, I'm like, what does that
Is it
tell you about
expired?
us? Like, toothpaste and garbage bags.
Well, I guess you could eat the toothpaste if you had to.
Yeah, I guess true. I just think that's hilarious. Like in retrospect, I'm like, that was funny. Like,
Yeah, but I am glad to see that things are coming around.
yeah,
Seeing the vaccines and all that stuff. So
yeah.
that's
I
great. It was
actually got my
impressive how
first.
fast.
I got my first shot. I get my second shot next week. I was lucky. I feel like I got a lottery draw because I don't work in the public. I don't work with children. I'm not old. So I feel like when I got the email, I feel like I won the lottery. At first, I thought it was a scam actually,
Hmm.
that said, here, click here for your sign up for your first vaccination. And I
Yeah,
did, and it worked. I was like, wow. So I did.
nice,
I'm definitely feel very blessed in that regard.
great, awesome. So can you tell us a little bit about what's next? What are you working on?
Um, I'm not 100% sure, but my dad was one of the very first people that read my book, Trials and Tribulations of Modesty Green. And I wanted to name it Minty, which is Harriet Tubman's nickname. And
Mhm.
my dad on his deathbed said, this isn't Minty's story. This is Modesty Green's story. It's her trials and tribulations. And he snapped his fingers. He said, that's it, Daisha. That's it. He says, that's your title, Trials and Tribulations of Modesty Green. And
Mhm.
so I ended up naming it that. And he passed away just a few weeks later. But he had always told me, you should write about the Mormons. And
Mhm.
I come from a long line of Mormons. My grandfather served time in the prison in Salt Lake City, Utah, because he would not give up his second and third wives. We're descendants of the second wife, so there was never really legal marriages. Like I kind of like we're all bastard kids because
Yeah.
the marriages weren't legal. But if you really look at what Joseph Smith, or not Joseph Smith, Brigham Young did to settle the
Mhm.
West, and that's my dad's idea was like when Brigham Young said this is the place in Salt Lake, the big famous, like,
Yeah.
it was still Mexico. The
Mhm.
Mexico-American War was not over, and so part of the negotiations at that time
Mhm.
was so that they could have Utah, which wasn't Utah at the time. It was they called it Desiree, and
Yeah.
it was Utah, Colorado, Wyoming, parts of New Mexico, parts of California. It was huge. It was
Yeah.
absolutely all of Nevada.
Mhm.
It was absolutely huge. And one of the presidents, I don't remember if it was Grant or Lincoln, says, we're giving this man too much power. We're giving this man too much control over the West. And
Mhm.
they really did settle the West. So I'm actually thinking about, again, going back with the powerful women, is calling it Brigham's Bride and having, or Brigham's Brides, and having it from the point of view of these women who were in these plural marriages who came from Ohio, hiked across. My grandmother's piano was in a hand cart,
Wow.
drug across America, still in my uncle's house.
Yeah.
Like these guys were determined to make a new life for themselves. And again, the women don't get the credit. Like,
Right.
if you really think they would have made it without all the women behind them? No, they would not have. But then you also look at like Porter Rockwell and some of the not so pious people, I guess.
Mhm.
And so it's gonna be interesting. I've done some research. I did a short essay about it, the West being settled, and learned a lot of interesting stuff because the Mormons were kind of brutal. I mean, they settled the West. They didn't do it. They didn't just like say, "Hey, here we are." Like they
Mhm.
fought and they killed natives. They killed Mexicans. They fought in the American-Mexican War. Like it was a major thing. And then they absolutely would not give up polygamy. The reason Utah, so every time a state would become a state, Deseret would be smaller and smaller and smaller because they would just keep chopping it and making these other states. And they would say, give up polygamy, we'll give you statehood. Give up polygamy, we'll give you
Mhm.
statehood. and they would not, because they all loved their wife. They loved all of their wives.
Mhm.
And so eventually, and this was definitely President Grant, he made it a law nationwide, no more polygamy, not just Utah,
Mhm.
nationwide, no more polygamy. And that then Utah was able to become a state, because then it became a national law, even though even to this day, there are polygamists in Utah.
Mhm.
Um, so that's kind of the direction I was thinking. I don't know for sure, but I've been totally thinking about it, because it could really be. There's a lot of battles. There's a lot of one of the things I've been finding out about the dragon from Guangzhou is men like battles. They like the
Mhm.
battle scenes, and I've gotten so
Mhm.
many great feedback. Most of my other books, guys don't dig. They're like, it's
Mhm.
too chicky. It's too happily ever after. Like, the guys don't like that. So I really, I've gotten some great, fantastic feedback from men with this new book. And so I'm like, okay, we need
It's
fights.
really
We need
good to
blood.
hear it
We need
across the
fights.
board.
We need.
Yeah.
So that's kind of in the back of my mind. I have a love story in mind that happened in Budapest, and I have another love story that could have happened in Colombia. But I don't know. I don't know, but that the Brigham's Brides thing is definitely one
A
of the
top
things I'm
contender.
giving a lot of thought to, just because of the feedback I'm getting from guys with this other, like, we need
Mhm.
blood, we need bloodshed, we need fights, we need swords and guns and battles, and that's
Yeah. And then that's what yeah, that's what your book has. Like, oh, you have
it
it
has.
all. You've got the
It does.
romance, you've got the action. It's
It does.
just
And it moves fast. Thanks to
yes.
you. Thanks to you. This book really moves quickly. Listening to it on audio, I didn't realize how fast it really does move. Like, the book
Mhm.
moves.
So
One
you're
of
pleased
the
with how the audio came out too?
Yeah, we're still
Good.
dialing it in. The gal who's doing it got a sick sore throat,
Oh
and
no.
so yeah, and so she kind of wants to get her voice 100% before
Mhm.
continuing, which naturally we want it to be right, and I
Right.
want her to feel better for sure. But that was one of the feedback that, I mean, I've had people say they read the book in one sitting, because it moves so quickly that they had a hard time putting it down. And for me as an author, the best thing you can tell me is I couldn't put it down. Like,
Mhm.
that is the best compliment to me personally. I couldn't put it down, and
Yeah.
that's definitely with this new one. It goes quick,
Yeah.
and you can't put it
I
down.
remember when you sent me like the first draft that you sent me that didn't have the ending yet. It was just the first few chapters. And I was like,
I need more. I remember you saying that, like, more,
better
please,
keep it
more,
coming.
please. Yeah, it's true. It does. It's a great book. It's definitely my favorite of my four.
Mhm.
And I know you're not supposed to have favorite children, but I do. They're usually the babies, of the newborns.
Sure, sure. But this is well deserved. It
It's
is a
good.
really great book.
The cover, I'm going to tell you real quick about the cover. So I have
Yeah.
all these different ideas about the covers, and people, I have so many people that are like, oh, your next book, let me do the cover. Let me do the cover of your next book. And so I kept getting people submitting, and I'd send it to my daughter in Germany, and my daughter would be like, this sucks, don't use it. And then I get another one. She's like, oh God, mom, this is worse than the last one. And I'm like, okay, kiddo, you think you can do better. You come up with something better. And she did. She's the
She
one who
did.
came
It's
up
it's definitely
with the
eye-catching.
design, and I absolutely loved it. And I was like,
Does she
well,
have a design background?
no,
No?
not at all. No, the German government has sent her back to school, and she's learning coding.
Okay.
And so that's, instead of paying unemployment, they send you back to school so you can have a trade.
Okay.
So she's learning some coding and some computer stuff. So it was really awesome. She sent me two different ones, and I liked the first one better, but everybody else liked the second one better, which is the one I went with, because I definitely love the feedback from my readers and my beta readers and my family. And so we did go with the second one. I felt like it was a little more um, for the time period. Like, it was more right on for that time period.
Right.
And so, yeah, I love it. The cover's my favorite. I just ordered bookmarks. I'll send you bookmarks.
Oh,
I just
nice.
ordered, yeah, I ordered, I'm in love with the cover, and mostly because my kid did it. Like, it's
Yeah.
one of those art pieces that you want to hang on your fridge forever.
Nice. I think that's awesome that you had that together, that you worked on it together and she had a piece of it.
Yeah, I do too. It's so great. Now we're talking about redoing some of my other covers, because They could maybe use some refreshing. Like with glue, we're thinking about making it a little more sexy and a little less drug addicty.
Mm.
With Trials and Tribulations of Modesty Green, we're thinking about making it a little less busy. So I mean, that's another beauty of being an indie author. You can
Yeah,
do what you want. You're the
that's
boss.
right. You're in control.
You get that control, and that's the thing. I think people who publish their own books, or they want to be, they need to ask themselves why they're writing. Like
Hmm.
people that are like, oh, I just want a traditional publisher and I just want to do it this way, then you might be writing for the wrong reasons. Like if you're just
Hmm.
writing for money, you might not want to do that, because
Right.
it's the money doesn't come real quick. But if you do it because you love to do it, then that's the way I feel. Like it would be great to make money on my books. That would be
Yeah.
fantastic. But it's not why I write. I
Hmm.
write because I love it. I love the whole process. I love the research. I love the rough draft. I
Yeah.
love getting the edits back. I love seeing what someone else is seeing. Like I know what was
Mhm.
in my mind, but let's see how that translated. And I love getting those edits. I love getting the feedback. And so,
Awesome.
like I said, people need to ask themselves, why am I doing this?
That's often when I have, a new email pop up where an author is asking to work together. That's one of the first questions I ask because it's an investment. It's an investment in that book and your writing career. And if your goals aren't aligned with what I provide, then I don't want to take your money. Like
Right.
if you're, you know, if I'm not able to help you achieve those goals, then I'm upfront that this isn't a great fit. And I think that's one of the first questions that I ask that is really important to figuring out, is this a good fit? Is what are we trying to do
Agree.
here? Like, are
Agree.
you compelled to write because you have a story that is burning to get out? Or is it, if you're planning on, I just want my name on a piece of paper that's out there, like,
Right.
yeah, I can help you do that, but it may not get you,
Right. Exactly.
the
And that is
fame that you're looking for, or
exactly my point.
yeah.
Like if you're doing it for money, if you're doing it for fame, uh, we're all little fish in a big ocean. And I know that also sounds
No,
cliche-ish.
there's tons of authors,
There's
there's tons of
so
editors.
many authors, and
Hmm.
like I said, anyone can write a book. Like really, truly, anyone can write a book. But what kind of product are you getting? Like, are you taking that step with the editor? Are you taking multiple eyes? Are you multiple passes? I tell people all the time, if you're not sick and tired of your book, you have not edited it enough. Because if
Yeah.
you're not just completely like, oh my God, I cannot read this chapter one more time, you have not edited enough, because you really just cannot go over it enough. You could
Right.
like literally continue to edit it for another year.
Hmm.
It's one of those things that if you want a good quality product, that's what you've got to do.
And it takes time because you do get sick of it. You do get so familiar with it. You have
So
to be
true.
able to set it aside and come back to it with
Walk
fresh
away.
eyes.
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
It
That is
it's
so
not
true.
something you can just like whip out overnight and expect
Mm-mm.
for that to be a successful product.
No, absolutely not. And as an author too, you need to be open to feedback. Like when I
Mhm.
wrote my first book, and my first editor says, "Yeah, we're going to delete these 3 chapters," and I'm like, "All the what?"
My words.
You have to be open to that. The whole
Hmm.
chapters went chunk, and they were
Yeah.
gone. And as the author, yeah, you have this little baby that you want to create, but you also have to understand that it's got to be good for everyone. Like it's got
Hmm.
to be entertaining for everybody, and that's why you've got to have other people looking at it and other people going over it. And I just have loved your services because you've been so helpful on not just the
Thank you.
the storyline, but the punctuation and all of the things that I lack. And
Hmm.
and on top of that, the storyline and the content and all of that. I didn't even know there was more than one editor until I wrote my first book. I'm like, wow, there's all kinds of editors.
Yeah.
So, and I really feel like that's one of the things I loved about working with you, is that you kind of encompassed all of them. I
Mhm.
did have an experience like with Glue, where we had one editor doing storyline, one editor doing copyright, one editor doing the punctuation, and everybody had their own little roles. But with you, I feel like it was all packet, like I got the whole package with you, which I
Mhm.
really really loved.
Yeah, so I can understand for some projects where it's helpful to have fresh eyes for those, passes. So if later on you want a proofreader that's separate from, your developmental editor or your copy editor. That makes perfect sense. But I also see the where the benefit of the consistency is. So, we work hard to improve pace or transition in a certain place, and then to pass it off to someone else who is not privy to what we worked so hard on and start making line edits. That's where you start to kind of spin your wheels.
And also get frustrated as the writer. As the writer,
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden you feel like this person's coming at you this direction, that person's coming in, and all of a sudden you're frustrated, and you're like, oh, this story sucks, and that's where you want to walk away.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Can understand that.
Yeah. You say, did your kids just knock on the door?
They did, so I
I
think we'll
promise
probably have to
not
wrap it up.
it.
I didn't know if they were gonna force themselves on us with a guest appearance, so I figured let's wrap it up and I'll see what they need.
Hey, no worries. I know we have been chatting a while. I love to talk. That's
No, this has been great, and I really appreciate you giving us your time and telling us more about your book. And like I said, I'll send you the link so you can see the review, but there'll be more to come. Like, I am fully supportive and can't wait to see the success of this one. It's
well,
awesome.
thank you. I'm pretty excited myself. So yeah, buy my book so I can quit my day job.
Do you want to, I don't know if you can see a chat feature there, or I can just put it in the links in the comments afterwards, but do you want to share with your readers and other authors how they can get in touch with you as far as like your Twitter handle or any of
Sure,
that?
yeah. I'm DW Plato Books on Twitter, DW Plato on all of my others. For the people who don't know me, Plato's my mother's maiden name. I told her when I was in 4th or 5th grade that I was going to be a famous author and write under Plato. So I'm halfway there because I am writing under Plato. Not famous yet, but yeah, absolutely. Plato like the philosopher, not like the clay. And yeah, I'm on all of all of the social media sites under DW Plato.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It was great talking to you.
Great talking to you too. I appreciate you so much, Kimberly.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.